Yes, my G's. So I recently did a poll on my YouTube community tab asking what kind of videos you want, and mixdown advice was quite a high one up there. You guys can feel free to be more specific with what mixdown things you are struggling with exactly, because there are so many videos to make on this topic. But I thought I would just do a general mixdown video today on mixing down drums. Again, I've done similar videos in the past, but this is a bit of a refresher and yeah, a new way of explaining things. So when it comes to mixing down drums, and a lot of things in general, but I feel like something that a lot of drum and bass producers or aspiring drum and bass producers lack, or what they don't give as much importance to is the depth. Because for me, when it comes to mixing, it's mostly about the depth. So especially with drums, and obviously what I mean by that is how close or far away all the sounds are. So yeah, it's not so much about having to turn down all the channels so that you give yourself headroom. It's not so much about having to pan your hats to the left and your snare to the right. It's not so much about all that kind of stuff. For me, like the main work with mixing down stuff is getting the depth perfect, and that is how close and personal is a sound, or how far away is it. And the main ways to bring a sound, let's say you've got a sound that's really close to you, the main ways to give it more depth or push it further backwards in the room. Because remember, right, we're always mixing in a 3D box. You have like your overall volume level, you have how wide a sound is, the frequency spectrum as well, but you've also got how deep the room is, like how far. So it's a 3D room that we're mixing in. So the depth is all about how much of the room it takes up in that kind of long ways sense. So yeah, when it comes to drums, having a dynamic drum group is key, and having a drum group which has a great balance in depth is super important. And that's probably, for me, the most important thing. I could probably ignore everything else and just focus on that and get a really great drum sound, in my opinion. So again, like how to push things further back, that's a case of lowering volume, taking off transients as well, and having more reverb, and taking off more high end, so the sound is slightly more low passed. That's if you imagine I always imagine that I'm a conductor at a concert, and I've got my instrumentalists or my sounds or my drums in front of me, and if they're really far away, how are they going to sound? And then I'll replicate that in the production. So if they're really far away, I'm gonna hear more reverb from the sound, because there's more of the room for all the sound to spread into before it reaches me. It's gonna sound quieter because it's further away. It's not gonna have as much high end either, because it won't be as loud and as bright as something that was right in front of me. So that's how I always think about it. So let's mix down this drum break together. So I've picked 6 sounds. We've got a kick, a snare, some bongos, a hi-hat loop, and a special cymbal loop, and a crash. So first thing I want to do is I'm going to mix my kick. So obviously, like, now I'm thinking about the depth of everything. I want a clear separation in every sound. And for me, I'm going to want my kick is number 1, most powerful, right in front of my face. The snare is going to be number 2, slightly behind it. Then I'm going to have the bongos somewhere in the middle of the room. I'm going to have the hats also somewhere in the middle of the room. And then I'm going to have the special effects cymbal loop right at the back, and I'm going to have the crash right at the back, So let's start with the kick. Firstly, all I'm going to do is just going to turn the volume up. And I could see how far I can go before it distorts. Around 6 or 7, it's too much. Yeah, let's do it around sort of 3 dB higher, so we're clipping it, it's nice and loud. So yeah, I feel like that's a good place to start, and that's where my sort of closest sound in the depth of field is, you know. So then let's put my snare in. And remember, I wanted my snare to be slightly behind it. Right now, the snare feels more in front of the kick still because it's got so much snap and brightness on. I could compensate by giving the kick a bit more brightness first. So let's EQ the kick. Give the kick a bit more power in the front. That's good. So it's even brighter now, the kick. Now it should be a bit more level with the snare. Yeah, it's kind of like even, you know. But for the snare then, yeah, here again, I want to push it a little bit further away. So all I'm going to do for that, because I don't really want to change the transient of the snare. I like it how it is. I like the brightness on it as well. It's just got to be quieter. So we're going to bring it down. So brought it down sort of 2.5 dB from where it was before. It's still quite nice and bright. Let's go down to 3 dB. Now I can definitely feel the kick is my number one and the snare is like slightly behind number 2, you know? So let's do the hats next, okay? And here they're quite sharp and bright, and they're almost competing quite a lot with the kick and snare, you know? They've also got a lot of low end in that might not necessarily need to be in there. Okay, that's taken a bit of volume out, so they're a bit further back now. But with the hats, what I'm going to do as the main mixing tool is to transient shape them, because this is going to get rid of the conflicts between the kick and the snares when they're playing at the same time as the hats, you know. So if we take the attack down on here, all the way, you know, it's a bit too extreme. We've lost the whole hat, really, you know. Yeah, sort of minus 27% or so. Minus 28, that's good. So they're just behind the kick and snare now. Sort of a bit more in the middle of the room. Still fairly close, but more to the middle of the room. Let's bring them down a little bit more. Perfect. Definitely feel like they're behind the kick and snare now. So let's add in the bongos, right? So they definitely feel like they're a bit closer than I would like them, because I kind of want them in the middle of the room still, you know. For this one though, why don't we use a reverb to push them back? Okay, so we'll use a supermassive, and I'll do a nice short and tight one, like a small and wide or something. We'll mix that in. That sounds really nice, the character on them now, but it's just all a bit too loud still. But if we turn it down as well now. There you go. So quite you know, they're almost a little bit too bright still, I would say. We could actually shave off a bit of brightness. Okay, touch more volume down, and now they're really in the middle of the room. Yeah, nice in the middle. So now we're going to do our last two sounds that are going to be right at the back. Okay, so firstly, this cymbal loop here. It's got these kind of sweeps in. It's got lots of hat transients in. They're quite aggressive, you know. So we're really going to soften this one a lot. So let's listen on its own. Let's soften it so there's almost no transient clicking going on at all. Because if it's at the back of the room, I'm not really going to hear the detail of those transients anyway, you know? I'm just going to hear that sort of blurry, kind of altogether cymbally, washy noise now, you know? So this time we're going to go all out. We're going to do reverb as well. So we'll do another sort of short one just for this. Maybe a splashy space. I like that. I still think the transients are like slightly too much. Okay, and now we're going to EQ it as well. Take out some low end. And now we're going to shelf off some of that high end to push it even further into the background. Now don't you hear like they really sound like they're at the back of the room, you know? We'll bring it down a bit and mix it into the rest of the drums. Okay, now perfect. Right, nice at the back, you know. So he's going to do the same thing for the crash, you know. So what I could even do here, to be really cheeky and lazy, let's just copy over everything that we've done for the cymbal loop onto the crash, because it's basically going to be the same process anyway, you know. And now we'll listen to the crash. Sounds good. I'll just bring that down in volume again now and mix that into the rest. A little bit less. There you go. So that's really nice and clear now, and we've staged everything properly in terms of, you know, of the depth and the dynamics, you know. And so what we could do now is, I mean, I've got this all just going to the master, but if I wanted to put it in a drum group, you know, then because the drums are so nicely organized now in terms of their depth, I could just boost the whole lot now, you know. The kick is the first thing that's going to distort still, but I did leave a bit of room in the kick to boost it up a bit more, so we can bring the whole drums up together 1 dB or so. Just a little bit less, you know. We could also even saturate the whole thing if we want, like even more volume from everything now. This is my final kind of trick to get even more kind of free volume without taking up any headroom, is just to distort the high end all a bit more. Little subtle saturation in the high end, and then there you have it. You've got the final drums kind of mixed down. And they sound so fat now. I probably should have recorded a version so I can do an A and B for you to compare the original before this. But if you just if you fancy doing it, you can skip back to the first minute or the second minute where I played the original. But you would have heard as I was going along how much they've improved by doing this, you know, and the concept is definitely going to apply to your own drums as well, you know. So as long as you pay attention to the concept, you're going to be fine. We're really just focusing in on creating a great sense of depth by giving a lot of separation and space to each of the sounds, and thinking exactly where in the depth spectrum they should all sit, you know, and focusing a lot of energy onto getting that perfect is going to just make your drums sound like they have a great mix down, you know, because they're covering the whole range, and they have, yeah, a lot of separation between them. You know, that's the key thing, because once you have that clarity and separation between the elements, that's what allows you to then push the whole volume higher in your drums. You know, if they're not separated like this, then you won't be able to push them as far before they will sound flat and distorted and weird, you know. So this is yes, this is my video for you today, a little mix down video. But please let me know down below if you have any other mix down suggestions, any other things you're struggling with, and I can make separate videos about that topic. All right, thank you very much for watching, my G's. May I remind you before I go as well, if you guys would like to learn even more with me, you can book me for one-on-one production lessons. You can also hire me as a mastering engineer, send me an email. Everything is linked down below. If you like my content, you just want to show some support, come along on Patreon and subscribe over there for loads of free content, preset drops, special bonus videos, samples, and also a Discord community where we have daily chats and people giving free feedback for your music and giving you some great advice in there as well. Finally, if you'd like any presets for your synths, for Serum, Vital, Faceplant or Current, check out my website. I have loads of cool sounds on there, all with demos ready for you to listen to. All right, thank you very much. That's it from me today. More from me very, very soon. Ciao for now. Much love.